take no more games. Say that again. Just can't take no more games. Feel you on that one, my man.
Okay, Monday edition of the After Show. You got Week of Justice with you. Week over here on the East Coast.
And Justice on the West Coast. It is Metaphor Monday on the After Show. This is the day that we call things what they are. There are no similes allowed.
I get.
Not today. Hey, what a weekend, Wink. How are you doing?
Not bad. It is 61, gloomy. Kind of the way it's been the last 3-4 days, which is all right. It's October, and this is a kind of gloomy October weather you want. Reminder to get in the chat. Just go to netrootsradio.com. Scroll down the bottom of the page, and on the right-hand side of the bottom of the page, there is a link to the chat. So click that. Join us there.
And you'll notice on our homepage that we are maybe subtly or not so subtly.
Yeah.
Really in a get out the vote mode. So get out the vote. Only got a few weeks left.
Yeah.
It's coming up. Just saying. It gets closer and closer, and then we're there. Hey, Wink, here along the banks of the Rogue River and the Rogue River Valley of Southern Oregon, it is currently 47 degrees. We're going to go get up to a blistering 57.
There you go. Yeah.
Yeah, blistering. And, I wouldn't call it gloomy, but we're overcast. We have some rain.
Yep.
I consider it rather than gloomy. It's invigorating.
Yes, indeed. I agree.
The sky looks invigorating. In fact, that's how. If you live in a rainforest, normally that's your temperament, because it would rain at some point during the day.
Oh yeah.
For quite a while, sometimes maybe not for a long time, but it would rain, at some point during the day. Whenever you hear those rain totals where, they got 360 days of total rainfall in a year. And you go, wow, man. Well, it's still every day.
Yeah, exactly.
All right. It's not all day, just every day.
Same as Florida. Florida gets their rain, for 15, 20, 25 minutes, and that's it. Their daily rain,
They're humid, though.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Very much so.
Yep. I don't know. There's that. Hey, so much stuff going on. Let me just get some headlines on breaking news right now. The Supreme Court denied Obama's request to rehear that major immigration case. It rejected the bid to revive the Wisconsin governor probe, the one Scott Walker and all that.
Oh, yeah. Yep.
But they also denied Boston gangster Whitey Bulger's appeal. So I guess they were in a Monday of no today.
Indeed.
No. You got us out of bed on a Monday to do this.
Yeah, exactly.
What else? I think, Trump did a bunch of stuff, and a bunch of stuff came out about Trump.
Huh.
Wow. Now, of course, he lost $1 billion. And then wrote it off so that he didn't have to pay federal taxes for the next 20 years.
There you go. I knew there had to be some sort of shenanigans.
That's what the New York Times divulged
right.
from what he calls illegally gotten information.
Yeah.
As opposed, the only thing legal in his mind is if it has like a Russian URL involved in it.
Yeah.
Okay. That's legal. That's okay. So I don't know. It just seems, and he's writing it off, and other people, when I say writing off, the excuse given is that, he knows the tax code, and he was just, playing the game that you're supposed to play, and that's to cheat the government out of as much money as possible.
Right.
But how can you lose $1 billion? And he's got himself saying this in a circus. I was saying, well, I'm a business genius.
Yeah, yeah. That's all.
Wink, wink. It takes a special kind of smarts to be able to lose $1 billion in a year.
Yeah.
And I got to tell you, I don't think you and I have that kind of smarts.
No, I can't. No.
I could lose $100.
Oh yeah, easily.
But that's my cutoff.
Yeah, pretty much about it.
Lose $100.
Yeah.
I'm stepping back from the table.
Yeah.
Gather my wits about me, think about it, maybe go to another game.
Yeah.
$100 cutoff, right? And I was trying to think, how to spend that kind of money. Oh, but then it occurred to me, how could he lose $1 billion in 1 year in 1995? Well, of course, the high interest on those mob loans for the casinos are about $916 million.
About that, yeah, exactly.
That's what I think. We'll see. Or is it really expensive coke habit? I mean, that was happening then too,
Oh, yeah.
At least among a certain level of the population.
Hell yeah. Yeah.
I think actual cocaine use had waned dramatically from the 80s. But, some people were, they were they couldn't let go.
Right.
Especially people of means. All in this reporter's opinion. I have no absolute factual knowledge or evidence,
Right.
But it's out there. It's Cokie's rule. Okay? It's out there. Like, why is it that he rented a space in Trump Tower to a cocaine trafficker and a gangster? I don't know. I don't know. Keep your dealer near?
I think so, yeah.
Makes sense to me. Heck, he's also been implicated in renting space to an Iranian bank that the United States has deemed, dealing in terrorism and moving funds for that. So how's that work?
Exactly.
Because he loves America. All right. Enough of that. These are the issues that we will be attending today in a more formal fashion, and they are: Alabama Chief Justice Roy Moore is suspended without pay for the rest of his term for ignoring federal law. Not only ignoring federal law, but really for ordering other judges to ignore federal law. Yeah. That's kind of like overstepping your authority, I would think. The Republican candidate for Oregon's governorship doesn't think educated women can be abused.
Right.
Because they're too educated. Right. They know what to do to get out of the situation. Okay. And thousands of people dressed in black surround Parliament in protest of Poland's near total ban on abortion. One of the most strict in all of Europe. For the last half, we're going to report on 2 academic studies that show how Wall Street profited from the financial crash. This is where data can help figure out things, Wink. We can't get a congressional hearing because, we don't hold a majority in legislature. And so we as Democrats are essentially precluded from being able to legislate because of it. Notice how, like, when we're in the majority, we let them play too, because that's what governing is about. Exactly. They get into it and they say, "Oh no! Last year of your term, you can't hold Supreme Court judge." No. Right. Well, can't find out from a congressional investigation what's going on, but maybe data can. And these 2 studies show that maybe they have found out what happened. And the Nobel Prize for Medicine is awarded to Japan's Yoshinori Osumi. All that, plus the Connect Unite Act Daily Codes Community Calendar, and more on the after show with that ever so fine fellow with his ever so subtle East Coast upstate New York elitism.
Yes.
It's a coastal elitism because he's there.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
And his name is Wink. And Edelman, by the way. Ooh.
Yeah, there you go.
They get really formal in the
Yep.
Like in the Avatar world.
Indeed.
And this fellow all the way back over here on the West Coast, and nothing subtle about my elitism. Just, I hate it when people say you're a know-it-all or a, jack of all trades. I hate that. Call me intellectual factotum. Yeah, that'll do.
Yeah.
And my name is Justice. Wouldn't you expect it to be? And we do this here on Netroots Radio for, 5 days a week for an hour-ish in this time slot, because that's the way the universe curves. And also because who loves you, baby?
Exactly.
Yep. Love is on a curve also, just like space. If you don't know it, you'll find out. All right. Alabama Chief Justice Roy Moore.
Ah, yes.
What kind of
get back on the bench? That's what I mean.
how do these people get through law school?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
What kind of law school do these people go to?
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm sorry. This is Out of Think Progress by Zach Ford. Alabama Chief Justice Roy Moore is out of a job again. On Friday, the Court of the Judiciary issued a ruling concluding that Moore was guilty of 6 ethics charges because of the way he instructed Alabama's probate judges to ignore Obergefell, the federal marriage equality ruling. He has been suspended without pay until the end of his term in January of 2019. Suspended without pay until 2019. How much you want to make a bet they get that vacancy filled?
Indeed.
The last time Moore was found guilty for similar charges was in 2003. He's a repeat offender, Wink. One more and he's going away. 3 strikes and you're out, buddy.
Yep.
Solitary for you. When he refused to comply with a federal court order requiring him to remove a monument of the 10 Commandments that he had installed in the state courthouse. That time, the panel of judges removed him from his job entirely. Then he ran for the position again in 2012, and Alabamans elected him because there's also a study shows, well, I don't know how to put it delicately, but people, there's a scientific reason why people are stupid and they elect people like this.
Yeah.
We'll get into that in later on in the week. Moore's opposition to marriage equality was abundantly clear throughout the cases brought forth in Alabama in both state and federal court. What got him in trouble, however, was an order he issued in January of this year, 6 months after Obergefell became law of the land. In it, he wrote that, quote, "It is ordered and instructed that Alabama probate judges have a ministerial duty not to issue any marriage licenses, Egile, to same-sex couples. In other words, they should continue to violate the orders of the U.S. Supreme Court."
Exactly. Because states overrule the federal government anyway. Yeah.
See, this is what's... Moore argued in defense that his order was merely a status update, and that since the order said he was not providing any guidance on Obergefell, he wasn't actually ordering or directing the probate judges to do anything. The panel rejected those arguments as not being credible. A footnote highlights an argument that the Judicial Inquiry Commission actually made its case against Moore. A disclaimer that one is not doing something is only true if one, in fact, does not do that something. Now, I'm not telling you to ignore marriage license, but, if you do it, it's just things happen. And they're saying, no, actually, you're telling him to do it. Isn't it weird when adults actually make decisions instead of, these stunted individuals who live in some kind of playground of 12-year-olds and less?
Yeah.
Not to say that I'm an exalted adult, but sometimes we have our moments. The panel pointed out that he tried to make the exact same arguments in 2003. See, repeat offenders, they use the same excuses all the time. Yeah, well, I was doing it because, I'm doing it and you can't stop me. With regard to not moving the Ten Commandments monument, when he said, I didn't say I would defy the court order. I said I wouldn't move the monument. Of course, just as Obergefell made clear that same-sex couples must be allowed to marry in every state, the ruling in that case specifically ordered him to move the monument. By doing the opposite, he was violating the order. How many times do we see this from a particular, spectrum of our political environment? Over and over and over. They don't accept the legitimacy of an election when they lose.
Right.
Any number of these things. It's just, I don't know. This next story is also out of Think Progress by Esther Yushe Lee. During Oregon's second gubernatorial debate on Friday, Republican candidate Bud Pierce said that educated women are not susceptible to abuse because they have the resources to avoid putting themselves in such a situation. Really? How many times have I heard, Southern judges beating the hell out of their wives in hotel rooms that are recorded on a cell phone? They seem to be pretty educated to me. And it still happened. How is that? Well, the response came 1 week after the release of a stunning statewide report that found more than 50% of women and girls in Oregon said they had been the victim of sexual assault or domestic violence. Oh. So his response is, well, they're all just a bunch of poor people. Those things happen. Well, Pierce's response drew immediate rebuke from the audience at the question and answer session, during which the moderator, Oregonian editor Laura Gunderson, asked Pierce and his rival, current Democratic Governor Kate Brown, about their plans to help women in Oregon find safety and opportunity. Brown, who spoke first, said she had been the victim of domestic violence. She also said she knew what it was like to be unable to get a restraining order for her clients against abusive partners, and she said that she would continue to fight for laws so that 4 out of 5 domestic violence survivors and sexual assault victims wouldn't be turned away for help. Those battered wives, Wink, they're just a bunch of moochers. We have to stop that.
Indeed.
They're wasting our tax dollars. Wah, wah, wah. God, I hate. Ugh. Here we go. In response, Pierce said that laws can only do so much. The law and order people always say this. You make a law and people are going to just break it anyway. So let's just ignore the whole thing. Except they always want to make laws so that, you can just stop anybody on the street and shake them down.
Oh, yeah.
Now, can anyone, we'll talk about that another time. I'll come back here. Okay. You really talk about making someone powerful, Pierce said. A woman that has a great education and training and a great job is not susceptible to this kind of abuse by men, women, or anyone. Sounds like a little dig there. The audience booed. Brown covered her mouth in shock. So powerful women have access to lawyers and courts and go at it, Pierce continued. But the women who are most vulnerable are poor women who don't have a place to turn to because they don't have shelter. They don't have family around them. So I would argue that in addition to strong laws and going after every sexual predator and every abuser, that the way we can make women have a better existence and be less susceptible to being harmed is to make them powerful in terms of their jobs and opportunity. Because again, women that are in a safe place whether they're in a family or are independent and have resources, have ways of protecting themselves. So when you have no resources, you're so very vulnerable. I'm honestly not where to start, Brown said in response. I grew up in a middle-class family. I went to law school. I know what it feels like to be paid less, substantially less than the male lawyer in the office next to me. This is not just about power. It's about making sure that people are not discriminated against because of their gender, because of their race, and because of their sexual orientation. The event was the second of 5 scheduled debates between the two candidates. Pierce later released a written statement about his comments saying, I know that any women, regardless of economic status, can be subject to domestic violence and sexual abuse. And you can best assure that wasn't written by him. Women who are victims in these situations are not at fault and should not be blamed for being in a dangerous situation, he added in the statement, and I'm sure it was written by some female in the staff, said, you're an idiot.
Indeed.
Now, I live really in, a lot of rural areas in Oregon. And there's a lot of rural area, but there's just not very many people in them. But in terms of geography, when I say most of Oregon, is tremendously more liberal than in the area I live in. But this is not going to fly. I can't even imagine it flying in the red districts, because, that's where they need the shelters the most, and that's where they're fighting for them. Isn't that weird?
Yeah.
Well, okay. And this is by Justin Salhani, also at Think Progress. A near-total abortion ban in Eastern European nation of Poland is being met with large-scale opposition as black-clad protesters marched on Polish Parliament on Saturday. The rally, called the Black Protest, was held by the pro-choice Save Women group as they waved flags and banners that said, "We need doctors, not police," and "Stop the fanatics in power." Well, sounds like here. I'm really angry about these guys in suits who want to make decisions about the lives of people who find themselves sometimes in unbelievable and unbearable situations, Anna Blumstein, a high school teacher, told Agence France Presse at the demonstration. The ruling coalition in Poland is extremely conservative. It recently proposed a bill to almost totally ban abortion, except in cases where the mother's life is in jeopardy, and raise the prison sentence for having an abortion from 2 years to 5. Wow. Get an abortion, go to jail. Yikes. Well, I think that they make mention of this, if I remember correctly, in the article. But, when they say, an exception when the mother's life is in danger, except when you go to a Catholic hospital and they won't do it because it, goes against church doctrine, they got to send you to maybe a lesser hospital. And that's where you die. So, when the mom's life is in danger, then you can have an abortion in practice. Oh, and when I say Catholic hospital, Poland's pretty much Catholic. Like 99.999% Catholic. And that little small 1% is the priesthood.
Yeah, very much.
Ones that aren't. They're the priesthood. Yikes. Poland already has stringent restrictions on abortion following pressure from the Catholic Church. The country passed a law in 1993 that stipulates a woman can only obtain abortion if there is proof of rape or incest, the mother's life is endangered, or the fetus is severely malformed, according to The Guardian. A recent poll by Newsweek Polska showed 74% of nationals want to keep the current legislation in place. Though abortion is accessible in most of Europe, Poland is a notable exception. Every year, tens of thousands of women travel outside the country to end unwanted pregnancies. Poland made news last summer when Dutch activists with the group Women on Waves planned a mission to fly abortion pills from Germany into Poland by drone. A stunt specifically intended to raise awareness about the lack of abortion rights in that country. In Poland, even women who could have an abortion under Polish law are often denied it because Catholic hospitals don't help them, even if their life is in danger. Rebecca Gompertz, a doctor and founder of Women on Waves, told The Guardian, rich people can go to Germany or the UK to have abortions, but it's the women who don't have the means or the access to information who are suffering. And that's exactly how it was planned.
Hell yeah.
Weak, help me. All right, let's go to our Jim Hightower break, and we'll come back, go through the Connect, Unite, Act, Daily Co's community calendar, and then the stories for the last half. You're listening to the After Show on Netroots Radio with Week of Justice, and we will be right back.
The media establishment has labeled Donald Trump a populist, endorsing his absurd assertion that while he might be a billionaire, he'll be our billionaire, fighting for us commoners. I'm not telling anyone how to vote, and I certainly understand the inclination to grab the biggest stick you can find to whack the bejesus out of those political and corporate elites holding you and your family down. And Trump has sold himself as the biggest, baddest stick around. But I am here to say, don't be a sucker. There's not a single populist muscle in Donnie's whole plutocratic body. He'll sell out wage earners, small business people, and anyone else to serve his own needs or whims, as his lifelong record, as opposed to his recent rhetoric, reveals. Donnie learned to be self-serving from his father, Fred, who became a millionaire by getting federal housing subsidies to build apartment buildings in New York City. Then, as landlord, he flagrantly discriminated against black people trying to rent an apartment. One of Fred's tenants was none other than Woody Guthrie, who was so appalled by Daddy Trump's greed and racism that he wrote songs denouncing him. The Donald not only inherited Fred's fortune, but also his business ethics, including engaging in wage theft, outsourcing his expensive Trump-branded products to such low-wage countries as China and Vietnam, and illegally using and underpaying undocumented immigrants to build his luxury projects. Also, he's been sued hundreds of times for stiffing cabinet makers, plumbers, and other small business suppliers. This is Jim Hightower saying, Donald J. Trump is a swaggering son of privilege who has never been on the side of working people and most certainly would not be a populist president. To the contrary, in his heart, mind, and his whole being, he's nothing but a Trumpist of, by, and for himself.
Need an antidote to the progressive blues? Want some good news about how grassroots folks are rebelling against the corporate powers and winning? Well, here's an easy-to-swallow pill for you, the Hightower Lowdown. Hightower's monthly newsletter will give you the lowdown, even as it lifts you up. It's 4 pages a month, jam-packed with facts you can use, actions you can take, and Jim's own Texas humor, all for only $15 a year. To become a lowdowner, go to hightowerlowdown.org.
Powered by Unity Networks. You are listening to netrootsradio.com.
Please hang up and try again.
From a point at sea to the circles of your mind, a new force is at work for planetary transformation. New radio for a new Earth.
Okay, we're back.
And indeed, we are back, and thank you for sticking with us. This is the After Show with Wink and Justice. Justice here along the banks of the Rogue River on the Rogue River Valley of Southern Oregon on the West Coast. Wink is in upstate New York, 21 on the East Coast. And our crew, of course, are the ethereal creatures who reside in the cloud whose advanced intergalactic technical abilities allow Netroots Radio, and thus by extension the after show, to span the globe, the solar system, out past the Oort cloud, oh yeah, way past, and into the universe and beyond, if there is a beyond in the universe.
Yeah.
Okay. So today's Connect, Unite, Act Daily Co's community calendar is facilitated as it is every Monday by Chi-Town Cap. And his question is, do you gather intelligence? So I presume, well, let's have Chi-Town Kev say it. I believe that it was an old Johnny Carson Tonight Show episode where Carson confessed that he had a habit of looking into people's medicine cabinets whenever he was in the home of a person that he did not know. Okay.
Okay, yeah.
Whether or not was the Tonight Show where I first heard someone say this at a time when I was probably up past my bedtime.
There you go.
Looking into people's medicine cabinets, especially if it was the first visit into a home, always seemed a bit too personal and a little bit too much information-ish for my taste. There are some things that I simply am better off not knowing about a person, and another person's medications are not one of those things, unless it is necessary. And then he goes on to talk about, well, being a bibliophile. Whenever I am a guest in someone's home for any reason, I'll make a mad dash for the bookcase as soon as I can. Absent a bookcase, I'm on the lookout for the reading material on the coffee table or dining room table. I don't know. You might as well look at the bathroom. That's where people have their reading material prominently displayed where I live.
Yeah.
Well, not in my bathroom. Let's just put it that way. Okay. You ever do that, Wink? You ever go and check out anybody's medicine cabinet or anything?
Never been all that curious about that kind of stuff. It just, that's their business, and blah blah blah. So no, I never really got into the checking out people's bathrooms to see what's in there. Whatever.
Anything else?
No, not really.
Check out bookcases. Check out Hot Wheel collection. Anything like that?
No, not really. I guess I'm just not that curious about that kind of thing. I figure that'll expose itself during the relationship, I guess. But, I'm not really a big, I guess I'm just not big into snooping around.
That's probably good. I actually did a study. I mean, it was some makeup project that I had when I was an undergrad in which I took an inventory of the way that people arranged their refrigerators.
Yeah.
So I always like to stand in a person's refrigerator and figure out why they did the things they did.
Yeah. I figure if it fits in there, that's where it goes.
I was going to say it can be telling. People take the time to take the ketchup out of the jar and put it into another, dispenser. That says something about them.
There you go. It does. I agree. Yeah. For me, I just kind of toss it in there and say, "Oh, I hope it stays in there." I hope I can find it tomorrow or something. But
all right, events currently scheduled. Well, we have some more information on the big meetup October 24th for the Daily Coast Asheville Cossacks as they get ready for the Moral Mountain Monday rally in downtown Asheville. They're going to be meeting up on Monday, October 24th from 12 to 6 p.m., connecting face-to-face, sharing information, getting inspired, and adding to the crowd that is there to support Reverend Barber. The week early voting starts, and they're going to meet up at the White Duck Taco. The Downtown Duck is adjacent to Pack Square and easily walkable from any hotel or parking garage. The Biltmore Avenue parking garage is next door. There is a pet-friendly courtyard seating of 50 in the back of the restaurant. That's located at 12 Biltmore Avenue, Asheville, North Carolina. Is it fun? Yes. Family? Yes. So, Randall is usually the point person on this, but go to the Connect, Unite, Act Daily Coast Community Diary for the appropriate links. And if you're out in the area, I hope you go do that because, hey, we're getting out the vote.
Heck yeah. Yep.
I'm thinking the Russian hackers can only, they can mess around with just the margins.
Yeah, that pretty much, yeah.
I'm thinking. Well, that is your Connect Unite Act Daily Coast Community Calendar for the 3rd of October.
Yeah.
And it's so dark in the morning now.
Yeah, it is, yeah.
And now, without further ado, we're in the last half of the after show. And, yeah. Never looked at anybody's refrigerator. Didn't look at their liquor collection. You never did that. You never looked to see if they had Newsweek versus Look.
Well, most of my acquaintances, yada yada friendships, they don't have that kind of stuff lying around. It's just they may have a bottle of Jack Daniels or something. That's pretty much it. They don't have a real liquor collection per se.
They're basically hoarding and making sure no one else finds it.
Pretty much, yeah. So I mean, I just don't. So I guess I just never have associated with people that have that kind of stuff lying around their houses, I guess. But and they don't read magazines. Most of my people I associate with, they don't read basically. So,
well, actually, sometimes that stuff can get a little creepy. I worked with a guy. Now, even though people say, "Oh yeah, I'm going to work. You do your gardening and whatever it is," that I happen to be doing, building a deck, and if you need to use the bathroom, here's the bathroom. Well, I got to tell you, I felt ill at ease even doing that.
Yeah, true, yeah.
But I certainly wouldn't go into their kitchen.
Right.
I wouldn't open their drawers, and I certainly wouldn't open up their refrigerator to figure out how they, because I'm building a deck. I'm not standing in front of the refrigerator dicking around.
Right.
But I have worked with people that went past what I consider to be boundaries, to kind of like look around the house. Now, I don't think it was because they were thieves, but I don't know. The first time I saw it, I thought, person's casing the joint to come back later. Why would they do that? They're getting paid a bundle to do this job.
Right.
So it can get creepy. And, I'm not one to let my feelings, hide behind some sort of,
Right.
I will communicate my confusion or disdain. Let's just put it
there you go, yeah. Yeah, what are you doing in the bedroom? Yeah.
Yeah. Or at least saying, you shouldn't be going in there anymore. And if I was running the job, I'm sorry, that person will. So I have had to fire people, and I will confess I called the cops on a couple of people because of let's just say overstepping boundaries. Just say that.
Yeah.
Because you can't just fire someone and then let that predatory behavior move on down the road, without people forewarned. I'm just sorry. That's just.
Yeah, I've just never been that curious. I don't, let people have their privacy.
Yeah, when I made that sociological paper, about, sociological and demographic reasons for why people, organize their refrigerators the way they did. It wasn't to give carte blanche to just go out and look at everybody's refrigerator either. It's just,
right.
Now, I would ask, can I look into your refrigerator? And they go, why? No, I'm just making a paper. I'm
yeah, exactly.
Because look, if people put their condiments in the door versus on a shelf,
yeah.
I'm just saying. People who put their TV in a den versus out in the living room.
There you go. Of course, today they've got them in every room, pretty much.
They got them in their back pocket, right?
Yeah.
They got them in their hand.
Yeah, exactly.
Next evolutionary stage is that we're going to have our PDAs like part of our hand.
Yeah, absolutely.
Born with it. They'll figure a way. I'm serious. Okay, this next article is out of Newsweek. Newsweek's been doing some yeoman journalism lately.
Yeah, what's up with that? That's strange.
And this is by David Sirota. Well, that's one reason. Joe Conason. That could be another reason, too. Oh, my God. And this one is by David Sirota. Big data, those sprawling algorithms that can track and predict patterns in human behavior, often conjure fears of a big brother police state. But those same data sets could be harnessed to uncover and expose Wall Street excesses. Math brought them down. That's the implication of two new academic studies about the financial crisis. One study suggests politically connected executives traded on non-public information about the government's subsequent bailout after the crisis hit. The other suggests that despite their claims to the contrary, many bank executives understood the risk they were taking in the lead up to the crash and sold their personal holdings in their firms before the crisis hit. The findings emerged as U.S. Senator Elizabeth Warren, a Democrat, is demanding a formal investigation of why the Obama administration did not more forcefully prosecute financial firms after the crisis. Now, one thing we need to remember, the bailout, that was brokered when Bush was still president. Let's be clear. All right. But that has been a bugaboo and a burr up our rear is why did the Obama administration, the Justice Department, not more forcefully pursue a criminal complaint against obvious fraud and not more than malfeasance?
Yeah, true.
And why is this still continuing? I mean, people who had no mortgage taken out had their homes confiscated by a bank who said, well, I've got the title. And then we find out these titles have been fraudulently manipulated in the chain. It's just...
Yeah, there's a lot of...
Now, when they say blame Obama, I hate that because it's the Justice Department. Of course, what do we know about the Justice Department? A lot of those were holdovers.
Yeah.
What did we call them? We called them burrowers. They had burrowed in.
Yep.
But where did the head of the DLJ go right when he retired? Yeah, I know. Wall Street.
Yeah.
The first paper, I'm sorry, I'll say, okay, so, the first paper used publicly available information to chart the possibility that individuals with close ties to regulators and politicians engage in insider trades in the aftermath of the 2007-2008 financial crisis. Obama wasn't president then, just let's be clear. Politically connected insiders had an information advantage during the crisis and traded to exploit this advantage. Concluded the study by researchers at the University of Colorado and Stanford University and the University of Navarra and the University of Pennsylvania. The study zeroed in on those who made trades after the announcement of the government's $700 billion Troubled Asset Relief Program, otherwise known as TARP, which brought up so-called toxic assets, mortgages, and securities that had plummeted in value because they are fraudulently obtained. Oh, God. Crunching data from 7,300 corporate officers at 497 financial firms eligible to get cash from TARP, the researchers found political connections paid off big time. We looked at bank boards who had a director or officer who had work experience, current or past, at a bank regulatory agency, the Senate, or the House. And we found that the boards of those banks that had those political connections traded more heavily during the financial crisis, explained Daniel J. Taylor, an accounting professor at the University of Pennsylvania's Wharton School, in an interview with the school's business journal. The Wharton School, the one that shows that Donald Trump didn't have any, like, he wasn't cum laude.
Right,
No.
right.
Just saying. Barely made it. Back to the article. In other words, while the government was supposedly deciding in private who would get TARP funding, politically connected individuals traded as if they already knew the outcomes of those decisions before the decisions were made public. That information translated into cash. The politically connected saw between 4 to 5% return in just 3 days. Those with political connections also traded more than 3 times the average volume in the 30 days leading up to the announcement of who would get how much in bailout funds. Of course, they would justify it by saying, we're geniuses.
Yeah.
By tracking how insiders traded, Taylor and his colleagues don't intend to imply they've identified illegal activity. I'm saying if it looks like an algorithm, and it bounces around like an algorithm. And it even sort of like has that metallic smell of an algorithm. It's got to be an algorithm.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah.
You would think.
Yeah.
It is only against the law for corporate or insiders to trade on information that's not publicly available. The big data approach doesn't go into enough fine-grained detail to identify which firms may be doing that, but what the paper does suggest is that traders with strong links to the government have a head start. A previous study shows that those with political connections also tend to avoid tough sanctions from the Securities and Exchange Commission. The second study looked at whether bank executives knew the financial crisis was coming in the first place. In the aftermath of the collapse, many asserted that they did not see the crash coming. Oh, no, we had no idea when we created this bubble and it kept expanding that sometime it would bust. We just had no idea. No one could have known.
Indeed.
Normally, or nobody was prepared for this, said Citigroup executive Robert Rubin in an emblematic comment. He added that what came together was not only a cyclical undervaluing of risk, but also a housing bubble, and AAA ratings were misguided. There was virtually nobody who saw that low probability event as a possibility. We'll keep doing it, and hopefully we're not the last one holding the bag. Oops. They were left holding the bag, and guess who bailed them out? We did.
Yeah.
So stop blaming Obama.
Right.
And also when I say we did, I also mean all of that was brokered in the Bush administration. 2007 was like, I think, the Bush administration.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Right? Notice how that guy got all of his term, got to do a bunch of stuff the last year that he was in. Well, researchers tested that storyline against the SEC disclosures of top executive stock trades at 170 companies. That survey found a connection between bank executives selling their own personal company holdings and the performance of their firms in the crisis. The connection was particularly intense at firms with high exposure to the housing investments that fueled the crisis, said researchers at Oregon University, Universidad Carlos III de Madrid, and the Universitat Pompeu Fabra y Correa. I'm only doing that once.
Yeah, exactly.
Right? Don't make me do that one again.
Right.
Many defenders of finance in the recent crisis suggest that the giant institutions were really taken by surprise when the bubble popped, said the researchers. Our results suggest that insiders understood the heavy risk-taking in their banks. They were not simply over-optimistic, and hence they sold more of their own shares before the crisis. Now, of course, They're only talking about the Americans. Because, we like to hone things to a fine craft. And then we can import it around the world. But a lot of this stuff was, they called it a worldwide economic collapse, by the way, because of how intertwined all of our finances were. I mean,
right. It's like dominoes, yeah.
Now, it's not by coincidence that these universities in Spain were involved in this study in a tacit way as well, because of the housing crisis brought on by Germans coming into Spain and buying up a bunch of property, and then it collapsed. The same toxic assets that were passed among these criminals brought that country's economy into a shambles. And they're still reeling from it. And Iceland sent their bankers to jail. And now they're booming. And not just from volcanoes either, and even though that's happening. But we can't do it for some reason. I'll say it again. The quote by Bob Dylan, steal a little and they throw you in jail. Steal a lot and they make you king.
Yep, pretty much, yep.
Well, lose $1 billion in 1 year, Wink, and the guy thinks, well, I got to be king now.
Indeed.
Nobody but a very special person can lose $1 billion in 1 year.
Right. And still have money somewhere, yeah.
I still can't. I'm still trying to wrap my head around that. I'm serious. I don't know. Maybe I have like I don't need to gild everything around me. Oh, I've got this IKEA lamp. I got to have it gilded. I can't have this IKEA lamp in my house unless it's gilded gold, which is what gilded means. So, that kind of adds up, I guess, over the long run.
I guess.
But that's still not enough to spend $1 billion or lose $1 billion in a year.
Kind of difficult to do that.
Well, also, isn't there the old adage that you can never beat the house? Right?
Right.
So how is it that his casinos are the only ones that got beat? I don't get it. Except, like I said, the interest rate on that mob loan is about $916 million.
Yeah, pretty much, yeah.
I guess he did his job well. Special kind of knowledge, Wing. Special kind of smarts. Yeah. It's a special kind of smarts. We don't have that kind of smarts because you know what? You know what's hooked up with our kind of smarts? And I'm kind of alluding to this, and I don't want to say, oh, well, I'm an angel, because I'm not. But I'm just saying that there's a moral thing involved here, too.
Yep.
Well, look. I would never run a business. I'll tell you, I'll hightail it out. I would never run a business if some mob guys came up and said, to work on this block, you got to do this, this, and this. And that happens to people. I know that it happens. I've seen it happen to people. And I made a vow I would never run a business if that was the case. And I got to tell you, one of the reasons why we never develop property in San Francisco proper is because, there's an expectation of money exchanging hands.
Yeah, exactly, yeah.
And we didn't want to get into that kind of business. And it had more to do, not with the fear of getting caught or whatever, but, it was scammy, it was sleazy. It offended our consciences. It did. So I think we attach our intellect to also a moral standard as well. That's why we're losers, Wink.
That's it, yeah. About 20 years ago, I tried to sell some coffee in New York City. I was selling coffee at the time, just diner to diner kind of thing.
Yeah.
So let me try to expand into New York City and see what I can do. I started out on Long Island, just outside of New York. And I went a few diner to diner, and every one of them said, no. And after about 5 or 6 trips, finally one of them come up and said, Wink, we all get our coffee from one place, and that would be the mob. He didn't say the mob, but it was highly suggested,
Yeah.
So.
Well, they control the distribution channel, and
exactly.
no, I mean, like the drayage firms, the garbage trucks.
Yeah.
We're all in San Francisco. We're all private, and you can see a marked difference between municipal drayage, situations, garbage pickup versus the private, and there was like beatings, and that's the other thing that the restaurateurs had to put up with,
right?
Who's picking up the stuff out the back door and
that kind of thing, right?
Yes, you got to deal with that.
Which at that point, I always thought that was just in the movies and TV, and then
it happens.
I found out then that I was in the real world. Yeah.
Now, now that didn't happen in Berkeley, and one of the reasons is because, well, first of all, the garbage pickup is municipal, not private.
There you go. Yeah.
People hired private people, but
but it is municipal too. Yeah.
Hey, this next story is pretty astounding. We're in the Nobel season again, isn't that amazing? And this is out of the International Business Times by Avanish Pandey. Kicking off this year's Nobel Prize announcements, the Nobel Assembly at Sweden's Karolinska Institutet on Monday awarded the 2016 Nobel Prize in Physiology or Medicine to the Japanese cell biologist Yoshinori Osumi for his discoveries of mechanisms for autophagy. Autophagy, a word derived from the Greek words auto meaning self and phagion meaning to eat, is a fundamental process for degrading and recycling cellular components. Disruptions in the normal autophagic processes have been linked to Parkinson's disease, type 2 diabetes, and other disorders among the elderly, while mutations in genes controlling autophagy can cause debilitating genetic diseases. Osumi, who is the 23rd Nobel laureate born in Japan, identified 15 genes and yeast mutants essential for this process to take place. The results of this major breakthrough, which also proved that autophagy exists in yeast cells, were published in 1992. Osumi's discoveries led to a new paradigm in our understanding of how the cell recycles its content. His discoveries opened the path to understanding the fundamental importance of autophagy in many physiological processes, such as in the adaptation to starvation or response to infection, the Nobel Assembly said in a statement. Mutations in autophagy genes can cause disease, and the autophagic process is involved in several conditions, including cancer and neurological disease. In 2015, the Nobel went to William Campbell and Satoshi Omura for their discoveries concerning a novel therapy against infections caused by roundworm parasites, and Yu Tu for her role in creating a drug to combat malaria. The Nobel Prize in Physics and Chemistry will be announced tomorrow, Tuesday, and a day after, respectively, while the Peace and Economics Nobel is scheduled to be announced on October 7th and October 10th. The dates for the Literature Prize have not yet been revealed. Because they always save you don't tell all the story in the beginning. Right?
Exactly.
And you don't tell it certainly in the middle. Okay? We're not even at the middle for the Literature Prize yet. All right. The National Assembly of Karolinska Institutet, convened for the purpose of awarding the Medicine Prize, has 50 voting members and is composed of professors from the Institute, members of the Nobel Committee, its working body, and they are elected from among its members for a 3-year term. The other 2 science prizes are awarded by the Royal Swedish Academy of Sciences. The sum award each year varies depending on investment value of Alfred Nobel's initial 31 million kroner, approximately 1.7 billion Swedish kroner, or $198 million in dollars. In current value, capital which he stipulated should be invested in safe securities a year before his death back in 1895. This year, each full Nobel Prize is worth 8 million Swedish kroners, or $936,000. Isn't that interesting? Okay, we've reached the end of our broadcasting time, and stay tuned for the rest of the day. I should give fair warning. We're still ferreting out a couple of software glitches, so if we happen to go offline, it'll only be briefly. So I'm sorry, it might come as a surprise. I can't tell you when or if it'll even happen.
Right.
But just refresh your browsers, and you'll be back up and running, and when we are. So otherwise, stay tuned to Netroots Radio 24/7, 365. Why do we do this? Well, because who loves you, baby? Okay, Wink, I will see you on the other side.
All right. We're out.